Good afternoon, good afternoon. I am Sandgrain1 and I am doing some mob spawning science here. I've created a special map. This is a slime chunk and it's a flat map. We are at level 4 and I have filled this world with tall grass, so the only available or the only place without tall grass is inside a chunk. And I'm using that to prevent mob spawning actually. As you can see, there's no slimes here. We are on easy. So tall grass is in the same group of blocks as torches, pressure plates, flowers, mushrooms, and those are all blocks without a hitbox. So you can walk through them. And that means that the spawning algorithm is able to place mobs inside. The spawning algorithm is able to place mobs inside blocks of this type. However, they do prevent mob spawning. And how does that work? Well, the first step in the spawning algorithm is to find an empty block. These blocks are not empty, they are tall grass. And when the spawning algorithm is now looking for empty blocks and is finding a lot of them above us here, but eventually, let's say it finds this one. And this is now the starting location for some actual mob spawning. It has to find a starting location, but when that starting location is found, it will randomly start picking blocks around here. So it will pick blocks in the same plane. So it will not pick blocks above or below. It will pick only blocks on the same level as the starting block. And during this process, these blocks are valid. And there is a radius around the starting block that are 20 wide, so mobs can now be placed as far as 20 blocks away from the starting block. And the game will now validate the block. The game will check, for example, if there is a zombie, it will check that there is a two tall clearing for the mobs to spawn here for the zombie, and there has to be an opaque block to stand on. The tall grass is ignored. So the spawning algorithm has to start with an empty block, but when placing mobs, it can pick any block, empty or filled with a block without a hitbox. It will not pick, for example, a slab. Slabs has a hitbox, so that is invalid. And more interesting one is repeaters. Repeaters have a hitbox, so it's in an invalid spawning location. So this is actually a reply to Sisuma Void, and the reason why mobs can be placed inside tall grass but not inside a repeater. It is the hitbox. I haven't studied the code, but that's how I think it works. Yeah. So this is a slime chunk. and I'm hoping to see a slime. One thing that Zizuma did not... ooh, slime. That was fast, actually. One thing that Zizuma did not test is what I'm testing here, the opposite. This is actually the opposite of what Zizuma Void tested. Instead of having a chunk with tall grass, I have tall grass in every single block outside the chunk. This fence here is actually outside the chunk, so this is one chunk, and this is another chunk. So this is 16 by 16. So this is the opposite test, and I'm getting very few spawns here, and that is because of the tall grass. And you can also see that I get no slimes outside my testing area here, even though that should be plenty of slimes in a normal flat world at this level. At this level, there should be many slimes, even on easy. Doc M was also a little bit worried that torches would prevent or reduce the number of spawns on his spawning pad. He's currently creating a slime farm, and he's of course right. As you can see, torches, tall grass, and similar blocks does prevent mob spawning. However, I wouldn't be too worried about covering my area with a few torches. The number of blocks inside this chunk is 256, and it would have been, and that is actually fairly few compared to the blocks outside here. So I think that Doc M would have had a greater effect on slime spawning if he expanded his number of seeding blocks. So the spawning algorithm is looking for empty blocks. So maybe it would have been better for Doc M to give the spawning algorithm more empty blocks. So let's say that this is the water trench. So maybe expand a little bit. And it doesn't need to be, it can be only one tall as well. Although probably make it two so that it's possible to walk here. So that is my sort of recommendation to Doc M if he chooses should choose to change anything. Don't be too worried about the torches inside the pad on the pads, but be more worried about the size of the spawnable, the size of the area with valid seeding blocks. And for that you need empty blocks. Let's just do one last test. Hostile mobs. And as you can see, this is the last snapshot, and we are getting hostile mobs here. A lot of hostile mobs inside the chunk, a few outside, but no spawns in the area around here, and that is because of the tall grass. I'm not cheating with some kind of mushroom biome here. This is all plains. It's actually a default it's actually a default flat map with some editing in MC Edit. So this is it. Mobs are spawning inside, and within 20 blocks, so mobs can in theory spawn as far as 20 blocks away from the border here, but they are fairly few compared to the mobs in the immediate vicinity of the chunk. So this was my contribution to the discussion. I hope this was at least a little bit enlightening. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.